never thought death would come for me that day. One moment I was driving, the next I was ripped out of my body and dragged into a darkness more terrifying than words can describe. And in that place where fire never dies and screams never end, I saw my cousin in hell, not for murder, not for some unspeakable crime, but for one sin she refused to let go of. That vision changed me forever, and it is the reason I am here alive to tell you this testimony. It happened on a quiet Sunday morning, though nothing about that morning would remain quiet in my memory. The air had felt heavy as I stepped out of my house, a strange weight pressing on my chest that I could not explain. I remember thinking I was just tired, worn out from the endless routine of life, but in reality my soul was standing on the edge of eternity without even knowing it. My name is Sophia, and this is the story I never thought I would live to tell. The story of how death pulled me beyond the veil and how in that place, I saw my own cousin suffering in hell, because of just one sin that she never turned from. The accident itself was sudden, violent, like a trapdoor opening beneath me. I was driving home from visiting a friend, my thoughts wandering far away from the road, when the screech of tires and the blinding flash of a truck filled my entire world. Metal crushed against metal. Glass exploded around me like stars breaking apart in the night sky. The force was unbearable, ripping the breath from my lungs, and then darkness. Not the darkness of sleep, but the suffocating cold silence of death itself. I did not realize at first that my body had stopped breathing. I only knew that everything slowed into a strange stillness. My heart had ceased its rhythm, yet I was aware, painfully aware, of everything around me. I felt myself suspended between terror and wonder, my spirit trembling as if pulled by unseen current. My eyes saw my body slumped forward, blood streaking my skin, but I was no longer inside that broken shell. I was watching, hovering, caught in a dimension where fear and awe collided. There is no language in this world that fully captures the sensation of leaving your body. It was not like floating, and it was not like flying. It was as if something invisible and powerful tore me loose from chains I did not even know I wore. My senses became sharp, painfully sharp, as though I had been half asleep all my life, and only then awakened. Every sound, every pulse of energy in that space seemed magnified. I could hear the frantic voices of people rushing to the scene, their cries muffled as if underwater, yet vibrating with a force that shook me. I could feel their fear like waves crashing against me, though none of them could see me. For a moment I thought perhaps I was dreaming, some cruel nightmare stitched together by the chaos of the crash. But then came the light, or rather the absence of it. The space around me began to twist, shadows stretched, long and unending, and I felt the pull downward, not upward, as I had expected from all the stories of heavenly peace, but downward, as though the weight of my very soul was being dragged into depths I could not resist. I fought it at first, clawing with every ounce of will, but my spirit was no match for that current. It pulled me through layers of darkness so complete they seemed alive. The air grew thick, choked with a stench of burning sulfur. A vibration pounded through my being like the beating of war drums, announcing some dreadful kingdom that awaited me below. And then I saw it. The gates. Not of pearl, but of fire. Hell is not a word you say lightly after you have seen it. It is not the exaggeration of preachers, or the invention of frightened imaginations. It is real, unbearably real. I saw flames that did not consume, only tortured. I saw shadows of souls bent and broken screaming in an agony that had no end. Their cries were not the cries of flesh being burned, but of spirits crushed under despair, regret that clawed at them forever. And I felt it, the knowledge that this place was eternal, no exit, no second chances, just torment that spiraled endlessly deep. My heart froze when I recognized one of the figures among those flames. It was my cousin. Her face, distorted by pain, was still unmistakably hers. Her eyes, wide with endless horror, locked on me for a moment that burned itself into my soul. She reached out, not with her hand. Her body was already consumed by the reality of that place, but with the very core of who she was. And in that silent connection I knew why she was there. It was not for murder, it was not for theft or hatred, or cruelty. It was for one sin, one that seemed small compared to the fires around her. It was unforgiveness. She had carried bitterness to her grave, refusing to let go of wounds from the past, and that single choice chained her to hell. I felt her despair, her regret, Her silence screamed that she wished she could turn back and forgive. But eternity had already locked its doors. I could not breathe, though I had no lungs. I could not cry though my spirit wept. The weight of what I was seeing pressed on me like an ocean. I wanted to turn away, to pretend it was not real, but there was no escaping the truth. Hell is not filled only with murderers and monsters. It is filled with ordinary people who chose sin over grace, who held on to what they should have surrendered. As I hovered there, trembling, I realized I was not just a witness. I was being shown something, taught something, warned. The flames licked closer, as though daring me to ignore the message. My cousin's face seared itself into my memory, and I felt the faintest whisper, whether from God or my own conscience. I do not know, that this vision was not for curiosity, it was for change. The pull of that place grew stronger, as if it wanted me too, as if hell itself was eager to claim another soul. My thoughts swirled with fear. Would I join her? Had I been blind to the sins that chained me as well? Every regret, every careless word, every hidden resentment surged in my mind, accusing me, dragging me closer to the pit. I screamed without sound, desperate for deliverance, desperate for mercy. And just as the fire threatened to swallow me whole, a sudden force tore me back, a surge of light cutting through the darkness. It was not gentle, it was violent, like being ripped from a predator's jaw. My spirit whirled upward, away from the flames, through the endless tunnel of shadow, back toward the broken body I had left behind. But that vision of my cousin burning in eternal torment for the sin of unforgiveness would never release me. It became the scar on my soul, the memory that still wakes me in the dead of night, reminding me how thin the line is between life and eternity. The moment the light pulled me upward, I thought I was safe, thought I had escaped the horrors that had clawed at me below. But safety was only an illusion. What awaited me was not peace, not yet. It was a confrontation with truth. The kind of truth that strips you bare, forcing you to see yourself as you never dared to before. I felt my spirit being dragged through a tunnel of brightness, though it was not a clean, welcoming light. It flickered, twisting, showing glimpses of my own life as though projected onto the walls around me. Scenes from childhood, memories I had forgotten, choices I thought insignificant. They all flashed past me in sharp detail. Each moment carried weight, as if judgment itself was stitched into every decision I had made. I could see myself laughing as a girl, carefree and innocent. I saw myself as a teenager, proud and rebellious, rolling my eyes at my parents' warnings about faith and eternity. Then I saw the years of adulthood. Every step I had taken that moved me closer to or farther from God. It was overwhelming, like being forced to read aloud the story of my own soul. There was no way to defend myself. Every memory burned into me with perfect clarity, exposing motives I had hidden even from myself. I thought of the unforgiveness I had clung to, the bitterness I had carried against people who hurt me, and suddenly the image of my cousin in hell seared across the vision. It was like a mirror, showing me that I was not so different, that I was just as vulnerable, just as unprepared for eternity as she had been. The light grew stronger, burning hotter until it felt like fire against my spirit. I could not escape it. My soul shook under the weight of conviction, the awareness that sin was not just an act, but a poison, a shadow that followed me into the afterlife. I tried to justify myself. I was not a murderer, I was not cruel, I was not wicked. But that voice within me, deep and undeniable, whispered back, "Sin is sin, and sin separates." I drifted further, trembling, my being stretched between terror and awe. The tunnel opened wider, spilling me into a vast expanse that no earthly words can fully capture. It was not heaven, but it was not hell either. It was a place of reckoning, a threshold between eternity's two kingdoms. And in that place, I felt watched, not by eyes of flesh, but by a presence so holy, so consuming, it made me feel smaller than dust. That presence was not cruel, but it was absolute. It carried authority that silenced all excuses, all pretenses. I realized then that I was being measured, not against other people, not against what the world called good or bad, but against the standard of holiness itself. The silence in that place was deafening, broken only by the echoes of my own thoughts. Fear welled inside me, deeper than the fear of death, deeper even than the fear I felt in hell. This was the fear of truth, the knowledge that nothing was hidden anymore, that eternity had peeled away every mask I had worn. And then faintly, I sensed them, figures moving in the distance, faint outlines of beings not bound by flesh. Some shone faintly, like embers of light, others twisted in shadows, restless and unsettled. I realized I was not the only one in this threshold. Countless souls lingered here, trembling as their lives were laid bare before the same presence. The air buzzed with sorrow, regret, pleading that could not alter destiny. I remembered my cousin's eyes, filled with despair, and a sickening thought seized me. Would I join her? The weight of my own unforgiveness, my hidden sins pressed against me. The truth was undeniable. I had not been ready. I had lived as though eternity was a distant rumor, not a certainty waiting for me at the end of every heartbeat. The presence grew closer, its intensity unbearable. It was not the flames of hell, but the piercing brilliance of holiness that scorched me. My soul could not hide. Every grudge, every prideful thought, every secret indulgence flared into view, undeniable. I felt stripped, empty, exposed. And then, as though the heavens themselves split, I saw it, a light unlike any other I had encountered, pure and radiant, descending into that threshold. Unlike the harsh brilliance that judged, this light carried warmth, mercy, and love beyond comprehension. It did not erase the truth. It revealed it even more clearly, but it also whispered of hope, of redemption, of grace offered even in the shadow of eternity. I realized then that I was being given a choice, though not in the way I had expected. It was not a casual decision, not something to weigh lightly. It was life or death, heaven or hell, surrender or separation. Eternity demanded an answer. The vision of my cousin in torment tore at me, warning me of what awaited if I chose pride, if I clung to bitterness. But the warmth of that descending light drew me, offering the mercy I had never truly grasped while alive. My soul trembled at the edge of decision, caught between the flames I had seen and the mercy that now reached for me. I felt the weight of every heartbeat I had wasted, every moment I had ignored the voice of God. And in that moment, hovering on the thin line between salvation and damnation, I understood, eternity is not decided after death. It is sealed by the choices we make in life. The tunnel began to shift again, pulling me toward my body, toward the broken shell lying on the road below. But this time I did not fight it. My heart ached with the knowledge that I was being sent back, not to escape, but to testify, to warn, to tell, to plead with those still breathing that eternity is real, and hell is closer than they think. As the pull grew stronger, dragging me down toward earth, I clung to the memory of that merciful light. I knew my life could never be the same. I had looked into eternity, and eternity had looked back. The moment I crashed back into my body, it was like being slammed into a coffin of pain. My lungs convulsed, desperate for air that would not come. My chest burned, every nerve screaming. Voices rose around me, paramedics, strangers, the chaos of sirens and commands, but their words were muffled. What I remembered most was the heaviness, the weight of being trapped inside flesh again after tasting eternity. I blinked, and the ceiling of the hospital blurred above me. Machines whirred, tubes pressed into my veins. A mask forced air into me with each jagged inhale. But none of that mattered, because my mind was still there, still hovering in the flames, still trembling under that merciful light. My cousin's face haunted me, her eyes forever carved into my soul. She had thought she had time. She had thought unforgiveness was harmless. Now she screamed in a fire no water could quench. I lay in that hospital bed for days, drifting between sleep and waking, but never truly escaping the echoes of what I had seen. Food lost its taste. The world felt mute. Everything around me, nurses, monitors, family visiting, seemed like shadows compared to the raw reality of eternity. And in that silence, I realized the truth that changed me forever. I had been given a second chance. It was not random. It was not luck. It was mercy. Pure, unearned mercy. I should have been gone, sealed in eternity like my cousin, my sins dragging me down. But God had pulled me back, ripped me from hell's edge, so I could warn others before it was too late. That knowledge shook me, more than the accident itself. Fear consumed me at first. Not fear of dying again, but fear of wasting the chance I had been given. Every memory of unforgiveness, every grudge I had clung to, rose up like a mountain I had to tear down. I wept for days, releasing the bitterness I had held for years, whispering forgiveness for people who had hurt me, names I had sworn I would never say with love again. It broke me, it humbled me, but it set me free. And then came the transformation. Slowly, painfully, I began to live differently. The accident had scarred my body, but it was my soul that bore the deeper mark. I could not laugh carelessly anymore. I could not waste words on gossip, pride or resentment. Every heartbeat felt like a borrowed gift. Every sunrise like a reminder one day it will be the last. I stopped looking at people the same way. Strangers on the street, co-workers, even family. I saw them as souls, eternal souls, walking toward a destination they may not even believe in. Some were drifting toward the same flames that had swallowed my cousin. Others carried light I could almost feel. It changed the way I spoke, the way I lived, the way I prayed. But with this transformation came a burden, the burden of testimony. I knew I could not stay silent. If I kept this story hidden, if I buried it under fear of what people might think, I would be no better than the cousin I had seen in hell. Her silence had cost her eternity. My silence could cost others theirs. So I began to at first, to friends and family, trembling with shame and fear that they would mock me. Some did, some rolled their eyes, whispering that the accident had scrambled my mind. But others listened, some wept, some asked questions. And in those moments, I realized why I had been sent back. Not to argue, not to prove, but to warn, to plead, to testify that hell is real, heaven is real, and the decisions we make in this life matter forever. Even now I wake in the night with my cousin's scream echoing in my ear. It is the kind of sound that claws into your marrow, that never fades with time. It is not just a memory, it is a warning that sin, even the small ones we excuse, can chain a soul to damnation, a warning that eternity does not bargain. And so I say this to you who are listening: do not waste the time you have been given, do not carry bitterness to your grave, do not play with sin as though it were harmless. I saw what awaits, and it was more terrifying than any horror this world could create. But I also saw mercy, a mercy that can lift you even from the edge of the pit, if you will only surrender. I am Sophia, and this was my near-death experience. It was not a dream, it was not imagination, it was eternity, and eternity is closer than you think. If you hear anything in my testimony, hear this: repent, forgive, choose life while you still can, because one day, sooner than you expect, your soul will step out of your body, and you will see what lies beyond. By then the chance to decide will be gone. So turn now, while breath still fills your lungs. Do not wait, do not gamble with forever. And if this story has shaken you, if it has opened your eyes, I invite you subscribe to this channel, listen to these testimonies, share them with those you love, not for me but for your soul, and for theirs, because tomorrow is not promised. I was given a second chance. I pray you take yours before it is too late.